Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, or what should be your favorite podcast, all you wonderful listeners out there. We don't know what to watch. And with me is the wonderful, the amazing, the hairy Kyle Mulford, the Wallace to my Gromit.
Thank you. Which
and
one's what?
And I'm Noah Saturn. Wallace is
the human.
Yes, Gromit is the dog.
You didn't call me a dog.
I'm the dog because I'm the smart one.
God damn it. Oh.
I loved Wallace and Gromit. I still do. They're pretty great.
If you don't, I don't know what's wrong with you. Speaking of Wallace and Gromit,
You're wearing the wrong trousers?
Yes, I am. What did we watch this week?
We watched the 7th Voyage of Sinbad.
Journey to a magical time when demons and heroes battled for the golden treasures and human spoils of forgotten kingdoms. This is Sinbad's greatest adventure. The 7th Voyage of Sinbad.
From 1956 or 8?
8.
8, okay.
1958, directed by Nathan Duran. And we'll talk about that later, as in, this is Nathan Duran's movie. However, it's a Ray Harryhausen movie.
It is through and through a Ray Harryhausen movie. And from my research, there's probably more evidence to support that.
Yeah, apparently he was on set for this and really had a hand in everything because
even from like the pre-production all the way through post-production. So, and
as involved as the stop motion was, it's kind of necessary.
Absolutely.
So 7th Voyage of Sinbad, 1958. Well, we've already gave away this is a stop motion movie. I did watch this with my daughters, and my 6-year-old says, "That's very stop motion-y." And I said, well, yes, it is. They didn't have technology back then. And I said, but it's still pretty cool. And my 9-year-old agreed with me that it was still pretty cool.
Well, as long as one kid likes it.
And actually, both of them watched it. Both of them enjoyed it, which is a case in point for all those people that say that kids need flashy, big CGI nowadays. No, they don't. Try watching a movie like this with them. They'll enjoy it. If it's good, it's good.
Yes, except if it's bad.
Then it's good bad.
So
or
bad
just bad.
Good, or just bad.
Or just bad. This one is not bad. This
one is good.
This podcast, good. We talk movie.
We talk pretty movie.
This is the first stop motion effects movie shot in color, I found out.
Really?
And let's talk, the opening credits on this is kind of it's just a drawing, like a crayon drawing practically. I mean, it was not crayon, but it practically looked like that. And it's
kind
just
of
going
abstracted.
Yeah. And the camera just pans over it and it's got all of the story elements of it on there. So like it kind of gives you a play-by-play of what you're going to see in the movie. And
which I always thought was kind of charming when movies did something like that.
And you know who still does that, I realized? I just rewatched all of the Mission Impossible movies. And when they're going through the opening credits, they show snippets of scenes throughout the entire movie. And they basically give it plot by plot through the whole movie in the opening sequences if you're watching closely.
Cool. And I also assume that just like Mission Impossible, there's a lot of Tom Cruise running in this movie.
Yes, and running and then getting thrown into the side of a car from an explosion. And
yep.
Flying helicopters and
all that fun stuff and fighting a mummy and...
No.
I get my Tom Cruise movies confused. And then going up against lawyer Kevin Bacon or something. And
he couldn't handle the truth.
I think so. And that's why he became a mummy.
Well, I don't know. Was Tom Cruise even born back in... He might not be that old. 1958? He could be.
I think he was born in like the 60s, early 60s if I had to guess.
So he might not have been around for 7th Voyage of Sinbad. So we've got the opening sequence, and it comes across, and the titles are coming up, the actors and whatever, and then it says in big letters, "In Dynamation!" And so what this is this is the first movie that Dynamation is credited with as using, but I don't know if it's necessarily the first one that they use, but it is a stop motion technique that Ray Harryhausen came up with, and him and his producer Charles H. Schneer coined the term dynamation. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw that he apparently was looking at, like, he saw a car. I don't remember what brand it is, but the car is called a Dynamo. So whatever brand made the Dynamo back in the 50s, he saw that and he goes, oh, this new technique, we need a cool name for it. So Dynamo, we'll call it dynamation.
Nice.
And this technique is a split screen with rear projection technique. And basically all of the monsters you see on screen, they set a camera up as a still shot with the background, and the actors are acting in there, and the camera is just still, so that they will bring it back and they will rear project it onto a screen, and then have another camera in front of that rear projection and put the stop motion, whatever creature you're going to use, like there's a dragon, a cyclops in this movie, and they'll put that in there and advance the rear projection frame by frame and move the little monster frame by frame. So like you're just moving it just a little tiny bit at a time. And he would have a piece of glass in front of the new mirror or the new camera, and he would black out what the animated object needed to be in front of and go frame by frame. And then he'd rewind the rear projection and the new film and go frame by frame again. And on that piece of glass, because the black part didn't get exposed, now he erases that and blacks out the rest of the frame, whatever the monster had to be behind coming into the scene. And he would black that out and take the monster back out and then just go frame by frame and re-record it again, so that you could have the effect of it coming in front of a rock or behind a rock, but in front of the background. And this worked this worked very well with the making it look like people were actually fighting the monster, because then when you're going frame by frame with it rear projected, you see the person on the screen, so you can position the monster how you need it to be to interact with it. So that's why if you ever watch these movies, the actor always looks like it only goes behind the monster, because that they had to black out that background with the actor in it. So it seems like I can't even imagine how long this took to make these movies this way. But
a long time for sure.
They look fantastic though.
Mm-hmm.
The stop motion in these movies is worth the price of admission alone.
And Ray Harryhausen is a legend for a very good reason.
Yes.
And not just for the sheer amount of patience that he had.
He just had cool monster designs. He came up with this great stop motion technique, which I didn't really know how he did it until I looked into this for this movie. And I was fascinated by the fact that he had to go frame by frame with those 2 different times to have the before, like in front of and behind stuff, and only expose certain parts of the film so that then he could reverse that. That is a lot of dedication to a film.
Oh yeah. And it definitely shows on screen.
So it's a good thing it's only an hour and a half movie instead of like a 3-hour. This movie was never completed. He died before it was made. But that is Dynamation. And then we open up with Sinbad on a ship with his crew. And they aren't they in like a storm or something?
You're going through a storm. They're trying to get home or something. And
this is kind of just an introduction. He's taking a princess that he loves from another country into
what's her face.
Yeah, and I have her name down, but I kept forgetting it through the whole movie. I kept forgetting her name. I just kept calling her Princess. But he's trying to get her back to his homeland because, and I don't know if there's a feud between them, but they want to get married and like. I guess as part of like one of those political alliances that was done a lot back in. Yeah, times. Basically, and introducing him on the ship is basically introducing who he really is. He's a sailor, like through and through. I'll talk more about the stories themselves after the movie. But he's a sailor and he's got a crew and people trust him and look up to him. And so he's a great captain on the ship. He's a good captain. And then one day he'll find that white whale. Yes. Or am I getting these stories mixed up again? I think so. He gets on a ship with Captain Ahab. No, but he does have a ship with Harufa, which was my favorite character. his right-hand man, and, just kind of did things for him, and he was a good friend to Sinbad. Well, they're in a storm or whatever, and just to show how awesome Sinbad is, they're all like, oh, we'll never find land. He's like, oh, we'll find it. And
we'll find it.
And then he's just like, over there. And they're like, I don't see anything. And they're like, oh, that's Sinbad with his eyes of an eagle. And the guy in the crow's nest is finally like, with his little telescope or whatever, oh, I see it. It is land.
And then they find the land, and that's where they land on Skull Island and find King Kong.
Similar. I mean, it is a giant
monster,
and it is an island of monsters.
So they land on this island.
Colossa.
The island of Colossa? Okay. Not quite as exciting as Skull Island as far as name goes. So on this island of Colossa, they land there, and then they see this guy running out of a cave, and then he's chased out of a cave by a Cyclops.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool Cyclops, and he kind of designed this for the movie. It's just to give it a different feel than like human-like, to give it like a monster quality. He gave it hooves like almost like a goat or a satyr. Yeah, or a centaur. A centaur, the two-legged. I always get that mixed up with the Minotaur is the four-legged. The centaur is the two-legged.
No, Minotaur is two-legged. Centaur is four-legged. Centaur is top half man, bottom half horse. Minotaur is the
Minotaur is the bull one.
Is the bull one, yes.
Okay, so I always get those two mixed up. But he's kind of like a Minotaur with the hooves, and then he's got like one little horn on his head, just like barely protruding. So it's kind of a cool design for Cyclops.
It's one of those things, I think you've probably seen it somewhere, since a lot of these monster designs have just become iconic in some way.
Yeah. And then I think he has been known to reuse portions of his monsters so he probably used some of these for later movies too. So
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, you put so much work into the model, you might as well use it more than once.
The guy being chased out of the cave is the magician, and he's being run out of the cave. This is where it's weird, because he was in the cave stealing a magic lamp from the Cyclops' treasure trove. Because the Cyclops is a monster, so of course he's got treasure. Kind of like dragons just like treasure.
Yeah, I assume they just like to hoard things. I mean, whatever they find.
He kills sailors that come in and steals all their loot.
And then he sells them on his Etsy store. It's like, he bedazzles them.
He's got an eBay account.
I admit it.
Amazon store.
Called The One You're Looking For.
Oh, but don't bump. But he stole a magic lamp with a genie in it, which is kind of funny because the magic lamp came from Aladdin stories.
Yeah, but it was from 1001 Arabian Nights.
Yeah.
And so Sinbad came from the same source or a very similar source.
Yeah, and there is a lot to talk about with those, which we'll get to.
At some point.
Eventually here, because there's a lot to say about that. So he has this magic lamp, and he gets, and genies are always like these big guys, and usually bald or have like the top notch or whatever hair, and the big pants, and it's just a kid pops out of there.
It's like, hey, I'm your genie.
Hey guys, and it's great because they're being chased by the Cyclops, and he's like, well, I want you to protect us from this, because we find out that the genie can't do any harm to others.
Yeah.
It can only protect you.
Just like Robin Williams. Rule number 1, he can't kill anybody. Rule number 2, he can't make anyone fall in love. And rule number 3, he can't bring anyone back from the dead. Everyone knows that.
Yes. So this guy apparently has the same rules, so those rules came from somewhere. But the other thing is he's like a little kid, and when the guy goes, we want a barrier to protect us from this Cyclops, he goes, I shall try, O master, I shall try. It's just like, he's not very confident in his abilities.
He's he does his best.
I'll try. I'll give it the old college try. Oh wait, I'm not old enough to be in college.
Give it the old elementary try.
I'm 1,000 years old. I look like a 10-year-old.
10,000 years can give you such a crick in the neck. That is all.
That is all. they escape. They help the magician escape, and they drop. In the meantime, they drop the lamp in the water, and the Cyclops gets it back.
Oh no!
So the magician is all like in a huff about this
because hey man, I want my lamp.
I want my lamp. I want my genie. I need my protection because he lives. You find out later he lives on Colossus. I'm going. Maybe instead of a genie, you find a different island to live on.
But at the same time, the cost of living is really low.
He doesn't have to pay rent.
Exactly. It's rent controlled.
I own my own cave. Didn't have to pay for nothing. So he's all disappointed that he lost the lamp, but
and now they go
Sinbad's
back.
not going back.
Yeah, so they go back to the mainland, and then we see the kingdom, and then Sinbad is like a prince or whatever, so he's going to get ready to marry Princess What's-Her-Face.
Princess Daisy. Oh, wait, she's in another castle.
No, it's Princess Peach is in another
Princess Peach is in another castle. I know that I have it in my notes somewhere.
Princess Waluigi.
Oh, Parisa.
Oh.
Princess Parisa.
I was close with Waluigi.
Yes, Parisa, Luigi.
Princess Gritty. It's actually Gritty from the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm not a hockey fan, but I will watch the Philadelphia Flyers for Gritty. He is the best. All hail Gritty.
So they get back to Baghdad, and the whole time Sakura is the magician, Sakura, and the whole time he's just bitching and moaning. I want a ship. I want to go back.
I want to go back to my island, and I want my nice ship. Huh. And it sounds just like this.
And I got real annoyed because I couldn't stand his voice.
So things are going well, and then he has to prove is like, I'm not sure you really are a magician, man. Oh, I'm a magician. I can show you. And then he takes like the maid or whatever, the personal attendant of the princess. He says, I will turn... It's like, are you going to make me beautiful? Because this is, I don't know, just some random lady.
Yeah, I know.
And then, but hey, it means another animation sequence. So that's what we get. Boom, bam, pow. He uses his magic powers, and then she becomes a dancing snake lady with 4 arms.
So he takes this ugly lady and makes her into an uglier snake lady.
And by ugly, you mean she has like a big nose. In this very, very white Baghdad.
It was 1950s Hollywood, so...
Yeah, but it's still worth pointing out.
Yeah, yes. We made many mistakes in the past. So she turns into the snake, four-legged. Snakes don't have legs. 4-armed snake lady, and I think that they might have used the model again for Medusa in Clash of the Titans.
Maybe.
In 1983.
I think 81.
81.
1980 something.
1981. But that was really cool because this one is kind of like you said, it's almost like claymation, where some of the other monsters have a little more solidity to them. She was very like wobbly arms, and you could see like the forming of the clay and everything.
Yeah, a little closer to what you'd like Wallace and Gromit or Aardman Animation would do.
Yeah. And so he gets done doing this trick, and they're like, well, I don't know. I'm still not sure that we're convinced. So he's like, well, what do you want me to do? Tell the future? They're like, yeah.
That's exactly what you want me to do.
Tell
the future.
Tell me the future. And so he goes, I see a future of disaster and war. I'll save you for a ship.
Reckon this can all be yours for the low price of $29.95 plus shipping and handling.
Call now, and we'll give you 2 for the price of 1.
Yes, and so then it kind of feels like this is more of a self-fulfilling prophecy because while everyone's going to sleep, while the princess is sleeping, he sneaks up on his tippy toes.
Well, first, they're like, oh, that future sucks. I still don't believe you. You don't get your ship.
You're not getting nothing because I, Sinbad...
We just wanted a free show.
And the square-jawed protagonist man.
So, yeah.
With no apparent flaws.
Yeah, no. I'll get to a flaw that Sinbad has in a little bit here. So he goes in and yeah, like you said,
does his thing. Self-fulfills his prophecy.
Yes. And so he shrinks the princess, and then he walks out of there, and they're all like, oh no, it's come true, disaster. And so we got a tiny princess.
Yep, because she is shrunk, and then she's discovered, and they're like, "Oh man, princess is tiny."
she's sitting on a giant rocking chair. And oh no, it's on her pillow. Sorry, people probably don't get the reference.
I can't say I do.
Lily Tomlin, I think, was the one who did the character. She played a little kid, and it might have been an SNL skit. And so they had this giant rocking chair she would sit in to make her look like a little kid.
Nice.
So we got a tiny princess, and the princess's father gets all mad, and this has destroyed the alliance they were going to have, and he promises rubble and bleached bones.
As opposed to the more natural, less bleached bones, your tan
Well,
bones.
they're going to be very bloody and, disease-ridden, so he's got to bleach them.
That's fair.
So you don't spread stuff.
Put some Clorox on, I suppose.
Clorox wipes. These are going to be nice, shiny bones. And
But then Sinbad's like, "Oh, we got to save this alliance. I guess we got to go back to the island. Hey, Sakura, we got to go back to the island.
You want to go?
You want to come?"
Oh, really? I didn't plan this all along.
Fine, I'll save her, but we gotta go back to the island so I can get my save her stuff. I definitely didn't do this.
I need the eggshell of a certain bird that is only on this island.
Bird. So it just happens to go there, and I just happen to go get back my magic lamp or whatever.
And no one just happens to realize that his ingredients are on this island, that maybe he's the one who did this to the princess.
It's just pure happenstance.
But they have to go back to Colossa, and nobody wants to go back with them. So where do they go get... well, where can we go to get people to actually go fight monsters with us?
Prison.
You want the noose, or do you want to fight Cyclops? We'll set you free if you go fight the monster.
Sounds good to me.
This doesn't sound like a plan that's going to backfire.
Yeah, they are not a suicide squad or anything.
This is not his trustworthy crew.
That's true. I mean, if only they had Katana. She's got my back. Her sword absorbs the souls of its victims.
And a sword...
I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword absorbs the soul of its victims.
And we never use it.
No, we do not, because this movie was rated PG-13.
But it is an Academy Award winner.
It's true. I forgot about that.
Sadly, 7th Voyage of Sinbad, I don't think was an Academy Award winner.
Well, if Suicide Squad can win, anything can win.
Nowadays, now. So they go back, and we get like 2 minutes in on the ship. We've already got the prisoners planning a mutiny. So the inmates actually take over the ship. And here's where we have our flaw in Sinbad, is when they come down into the cabin, he's also got his tiny princess in a box.
I assume it's just like a Polly Pocket.
I've got a tiny princess in a princess pocket. Pocket princess.
That's where Polly Pocket comes from.
Yeah, from Sinbad.
Of course.
So he's got her in a box, and he's down in the cabin, and the inmates come down and start fighting him and take over the ship. Here's his flaw. He sucks at fighting. It is really bad choreography.
He's a sailor, not a fighter. I wish it was Popeye instead.
He didn't need his spinach because they took over.
Oh, yeah. Those giant forearms were not enough for Popeye.
So they take over, and I just wrote down bad fighting sequences. It didn't look like anybody was landing any blows. And his arms were just like flailing off to the side, and it was terrible. But other than that, Sinbad was okay in this movie.
That's true. Other than poorly choreographed fights.
And so they're down. He's got Sakura and Harufa and the magician are down in a cage in the cabin. And all of a sudden, we come across like these wailing sounds. And what did I put... They come across screaming demons, the magician says, and that drive sailors mad and make them go into a cliff, and then that's where monsters will eat them under the ocean. So they're downstairs, and since the magician knows about this, they start stuffing earwax in their ears, They've already got that.
Cotton.
They start stuffing actual wax in their ears to plug them up. And then up above all of the inmates are going crazy. And it's just like this weird, like, the sound effect wasn't that great. I can't even remember I had something written down, I thought, but it was...
It was the sound effect of a YouTube comment section, I assume.
It's just all negative comments.
Yes.
You suck. You should go kill yourself.
No.
You're not cool.
And then two of the wailing sounds somehow get in an argument about The Last Jedi. Even though it had nothing to do with this conversation.
That's the last straw. Everyone jumps off the ship.
Exactly. If you guys get into if both of our listeners get in an argument about The Last Jedi in the comments of this video, I will be sorely disappointed.
Now they're going to do that just to spite us.
They better. One of them might be me.
Comment. I'm going to create a new persona to comment. So one of the inmates comes down finally, and he's like, "We're going crazy up here. You're driving me crazy. You're saying one thing, he's saying another.
It doesn't make any sense."
And he's like, "Can you save us?" So they get Sinbad and the magician and Harufa back out, and of course Sinbad can steer through 2 walls in a storm and get them safely to Kalasa.
Yeah, he's also really good at parallel parking.
The ship is just like,
backs up. Beep, 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 beep.
he backs up into the harbor.
Perfectly fine.
And he's got a giant crossbow, so he asks the Cyclops to get that out of the... No. They all the giant...
He instructs his crew, okay, now we've got this giant... We made this giant crossbow just for the monster. So now we're going to, put it together, assemble it. I assume it's IKEA instructions.
Yeah, they got it at IKEA. So
yeah, they have to call the helpline first, and then
and then
when they're on,
they figure it out 4 hours later.
They still got like a couple of bolts where they don't know where they go.
Oh man, is this gonna fall apart? So they set up the giant crossbow, and then some of them are left out there at the crossbow, and some of them go into the cave. And the funny thing is they go in the cave, and through the cave, they're just out the other side. It's not even a cave. They're out the other side, and it's just like more land with open sky. So it's just like
more of a tunnel, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of a tunnel into the monster part of the island, yep. I guess. And so they go in there, and the magician, of course, separates from Sinbad and his friends.
Never split the party. That is D&D rule number 1. You never split the party, because when you split the party, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah, and something bad happens. Harufa was left behind.
Harufa.
But then he follows and catches up with Sinbad.
He's a good boy.
And then they find this giant club with like spikes on it, and it's like taller than the people. So, and it's next to a giant stool. So, this is the waiting area for the Cyclops dentist.
Yes, I assume so.
And so they find his cash register full of gold coins in the
cartoon
cave.
Cash register.
Well, because he opens the top like a.
That's true.
He's like, "Hey, who's in there?" They're all rummaging through, looking at coins, and so it's like, "Hey, we found treasure! Huzzah!" And Cyclops opens up the top of the cave.
He hits the counter of the store, and then exactly. Opens up, and you see Scrooge McDuck is swimming in there.
They're all just waiting and back floating.
Yes.
Oh, this doesn't really work, and I tried diving in and I broke my neck.
It's because you're not rich enough.
You need a little more cash.
Yes.
They're all getting that, and they get captured. And they must have been close to Sakura's group, because he hears the screams, and he leaves his group to go to Sinbad's, and he leaves the guys there, and they're like all thirsty, and they're going, "Well, can't we just drink out of the stream?" He's like,
No, it's poison.
It's poison.
It's definitely poison.
That
so
stream
definitely
is poison.
Do not drink it. Whatever you do not drink this poison stream that will totally kill you.
So they drink it,
and then they die.
of happiness.
Actual poisonous.
I don't think they died.
Oh.
It was wine, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Because the first guy who drinks it, he's like, oh, I don't know about this. And he's acting like it's bad. And then like he grabs another guy and like holds him down and starts shoving water in his throat. And he's like, oh God, what are you doing? And then he's like, oh, this is wine. Oh. Give me some more. Oh. I'm feeling a buzz.
What kind of wine do you think it was? Like more of a white wine or a red wine?
Or was it red wine? It makes him feel so fine. Sakura leaves the drunks, and he goes and finds Harufa and pals.
Harufa and the gang.
Harufa and the gang. I'm sorry, I just like the name Harufa.
It is fun to say.
They're all stuck in a cage, and they're like, help, get us out.
You should get a kitten and name it Harufa.
Harufa and Simba.
Be a great name for a dog.
Harufa.
You can almost say his name. He goes, roof.
Speak. Harufa. They're all like, hey, Sakura, save us. Open the cage. He's like, screw you guys.
Pass.
Pass. You wouldn't give me my ship.
But we're here with you on your ship.
You didn't give it to me earlier. So he goes past him, and then Sinbad has a great idea. I've got a tiny princess in my pocket. So he throws her up on top.
He's like, hey, can you help us out of this cage situation? Because right now, poor Sakura is starting to get... Not Sakura, poor Harufa. Because we find out at the same time now that the Cyclops is going to make a barbecue, I suppose. So he starts... Yeah. He grabs Harufa.
And puts him on a spit.
And puts him on a spit and just starts circling him on the spit. Like I just like in the Looney Tunes cartoon.
He's cooking over an open flame.
He's cooking Bugs Bunny with
and
why you rascally woman?
Sakura's in the cave trying to find the lamp again, and the princess is trying to free everybody, and the drunks are drunk, and they actually come in, and while all drunk start throwing spears at the Cyclops, and he just kind of pulls them out like he's hit with twigs.
Yeah, like, oh, that's annoying.
God, dang it.
It's a splinter.
Oh, that hurt. Darn you. And I think he kills them. But doesn't he? He takes a tree and completely uproots it and smashes a dude with it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, you come to this movie for the effects. You come here for the monsters.
You come to any Harryhausen movie for the monsters.
Exactly. You know exactly what you're in for.
And everybody gets free, and the princess gets them out, and then the magician comes out with the lamp, and then there's a little kerfuffle for the lamp. And
no, you get the lamp. No, I get the lamp. Whose lamp is it anyway?
And they get stuck in a lamp. They get stuck in the in a little crack in the wall.
Because at the same time, after the Cyclops is gone, or is the Cyclops attacking again?
He's attacking again. They get stuck in between the wall, and then he uses fire to blind him.
Oh yeah.
And then he leads him off of a cliff.
And that's how we get rid of the Cyclops.
And then Sakura's like, oh, there's more of them.
What do you mean there's more of them?
Wait a minute. That was what? We only brought one crossbow.
We should have made more crossbow bolts.
We only made one bolt because it took an entire tree to do it. We couldn't cut down the whole forest to kill all these Cyclops.
This is stupid.
I'm going home. Screw the tiny princess. I'll just keep her tiny.
Yeah, she'll be my pocket princess forever.
Oh, so they draw him off the cliff, and then the guys climb the cliff and find the rock egg. And the bird is called a rock. Yes,
ROC.
And some of the guys try and break open the egg, and it actually hatches. And we get a little. He's taller. The baby is bigger than...
it's a huge baby.
But it looks like a baby chick with two vulture heads.
Yeah. So another cool monster design.
Yeah, it's a two-headed vulture baby chick thing.
And it starts eating people.
Baby rock.
And once the baby starts crying, then mom comes to town.
Well, that's after they kill it and eat it.
I forgot about that
I've got roasted rock here.
Delicious.
And Sakura's like, let's get the eggshell and get out of here because this is bad news.
Like, I don't like this one.
And
it says Sinbad or whatever.
And so now that he's got the eggshell, Sakura's like, oh, I don't just need the eggshell. I got to go to my cave. That's where other stuff is that I need.
And he's just like...
And then he's like... And then he goes, I'll meet you there. And just vanishes.
Hey, so bye. He just finger gun and kind of slowly moonwalks out.
But at least Sinbad didn't trust. Like, at least Sinbad is not trusting this guy. You know, like sometimes you get the ones where like, oh, I'm finally gaining your trust. I'm finally gaining your trust. Whereas like, no, Sinbad was like, I ain't trusting you with this.
He never
lamp.
trusted him. It doesn't become a curse, your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Yeah, he's just like, I know this guy's bad news, but I gotta get this princess big. And while they're still there, they need to get down there. So the princess jumps into the lamp because she's tiny enough, and she has a little conversation.
Was this before or after they fought off the giant bird?
This was before.
Okay.
And so she goes in to ask the genie for help and stuff, and finds out his name is Baroni.
Yes. Or Bert, for short.
Bert Roney?
Bert Roney. Bert Reynolds-Oney.
And he's like, well, I don't want to help.
I'm tired.
I'm tired of this. And so she's like, I promise to set you free if you help us. Well, and
as you can see,
first she goes in and it has a wonderful conversation. She's like, this is really cool in here.
It's a nice furnished apartment. It's just like I Dream of Jeannie.
What a wonderful home. He goes, yeah, a prison.
A prison.
She's like, don't you get summoned to our world though? So you come out every once in a while. Goes, yeah, as a slave.
He's very much a Debbie Downer.
Well, when you've been stuck in a lamp for 10,000 years.
He's got phenomenal cosmic power, but itty-bitty living space.
Itty-bitty living space. So she's like, oh, well, I'll promise to set you free. And they find like an inscription on the wall, and I don't remember what it says, but it's like one of those riddle things.
I think it might have been a Denny's menu.
It could have been. What is the riddle of the Tremendous 12?
It's like, for a good time.
Or is that Perkins?
I don't know.
8675309. And then we got her number. She gets back out and talks about Baroni, and then the big rock comes, and it's just a giant two-headed vulture thing, and takes Sinbad and drops him off up in the nest.
It's like, well, this isn't good.
And he drops the lamp in the battle with the rock. And Sakura's actually still here during this part.
It's kind of sneaking.
Yeah, because then Sinbad gets tossed in the nest, and he grabs the lamp beforehand, so his hands up in there with that. And then he finally gets back down, and then Sinbad gets the genie and asks where the princess is. That's what happened was he left with the princess, and he just went, poof, I'm out of here. And he's like, I'm going down to there. And he's like, where is it at? Oh, it's down at the...
Back at the start. So not only does this video game even has backtracking.
It wasn't the magician that went poof. It was the genie, because the genie came out and he's like, where's the princess? He's like, oh, she's down at the foot of the hill with the magician. He's like, it's just down their ways. Instead of helping, he just goes, okay, it's down there. Poof. So he was the one that poofed out of there.
Poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? I should watch Aladdin again.
Yes, everyone should watch Aladdin again. And so he goes down. He finally makes it. There's a dragon guarding the door. Which looks like a giant Gila monster.
Yep.
And he gets in, and he makes the magician grow the princess. And so he finally does. And then as they're leaving, the magician summons a skeleton.
Yes, in his secret lab or whatever.
And this is a really cool sequence because it really looks like he's fighting that skeleton.
Stop motion skeleton sword fight. Not the one from Jason and the Argonauts, but this is a precursor.
The reason that's in Jason and the Argonauts is because Harryhausen got so much praise for his work on this skeleton that he's like, okay, I'll do it again in another movie, but I'm going to add more skeletons.
More skeletons and more people.
Because I think he puts 3 of them in Jason and the Argonauts or something like that. But it looks amazing. And he's going up steps, sword fighting with this thing.
Sword fighting. It always looks cool because we have to remember that Harryhausen was a true artist in his craft. And it shows in everything he does, especially in this sequence.
Yeah, he took his time to make it look good. So he defeats the skeleton eventually, and then they're going to get out, and the magician destroys the bridge with magic. And so this was another fun part where they summon the genie. They're like, "Can you help us get across?" He goes, "I will try, master. I will try." And then he just goes, and then a rope appears in his hand. I think it was thrown from off screen or something.
Nice.
He gets a rope in his hand and it's just like, "Here you go." And then poof, he's gone again.
And then she kisses him and says it's for luck, and they swing across away from the stormtroopers.
Yep, who are shooting from underneath the closing door.
And then we find out that they're secretly brother and sister.
Oh, God.
But they get married anyway.
But they get across, and then the princess fulfills her promise. Like, she goes, "Oh, the riddle means throw the lamp in the lava."
So they
I hope this works.
So they throw the lamp in the lava.
With the genie still in it.
Yeah,
so if it doesn't work, he's dead.
Yeah, it turns out it doesn't work. He's dead, but he's happy about it because it's an end to his misery. So he does the Terminator 2 thing where he gives a thumbs up as he's going down into the lava. No, it works. He's free.
But we don't actually know that right away, though. And they get past the dragon again, and then he cuts the dragon loose to fight off the Cyclops that comes in, and then we get a cool dragon Cyclops fight at the end.
Woo! Dragon Cyclops.
And the dragon kills the Cyclops, and then follows the magician to kill Sinbad because the dragon is the magician's pet, so he'll follow him like a dog. And when they're getting out on the boat, like, they shoot the dragon, and he gets, like, shot in the chest, and eventually he collapses on the magician. It's just like, "Oh, there's the magician." Poof, he's gone. So they killed two birds with one stone. Although the dragon gets back up afterwards and chases him some more before dying.
Yeah, but it still worked, and they were still able to crush the Sakura, the jerky magician.
And then, so it chases them to the ship and then dies on the beach. And so they leave a dead magician and a dead Cyclops and a dead rock and a cooked rock and a dead dragon. They just came and destroyed the wildlife on this island.
Those are jerks. They're just a path of destruction.
PETA can't watch this movie.
They really can't.
They've boycotted this
Rocks
movie.
are now an endangered species because of this film.
They get on their ship and they sail away, and they're like, "Boy, I hope the genie got out of there." And he shows up, he's like, "I always wanted to be a cabin boy. Can I sail with you?"
He's like, "Why, you certainly can, little boy. Come aboard."
Well, because Harufa died, so the genie is the new Harufa.
He's the new Harufa.
he's the new Harufa.
Your name is New Harufa, Bartholomew or whatever.
Baroni Harufa.
That's what I meant. Macaroni Harufa.
I want a pet named Baroni Harufa. The great Baroni Harufa.
It's a good name for a lizard.
Oh, the lizard's dead, though. And then, and then the genie goes, "Well, let's go get some food." And they go to the cabin, and all the treasure is there. He goes, "Well, this is kind of a wedding gift for you. There you go." The end.
The end. And they all lived happily ever after.
And I got to point out, like, I always like pointing out bad lines in movies, and these were really fun. Sinbad is such a suck up to the princess. It's some of his lines, I don't know if you remember, but Sinbad's got great lines for the princess, such as she kisses him, and then he says something about for another such kiss, I'd invent a whole continent, because he's talking about like owning an island, or I don't know, the island he's on and all that stuff. And another one is I love you because I cannot do otherwise. Your eyes are mightier than all your father's armies. And
sounds like middle school poetry.
The city is made lovely by your presence.
Dear
without you, it is plain.
Dear Diary, you're the only one that really understands me.
Oh, and then the best one is when she's still little, she's sitting on a plate having a discussion with him, and she goes, "How can you love a tiny, insignificant female such as I?" His response is, "A diamond is a tiny thing, yet it is very precious and beautiful."
I'm gonna cut you and put you on a ring.
I love it, so I'm gonna put a ring on it.
I'm gonna
or make it a ring.
Exactly.
So, recommendation?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's a lot of fun, and if you have any interest in animation or stop-motion animation, Ray Harryhausen is a must-watch.
And this is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Only 14 critics, but those 14 critics are right.
Heck yeah.
76% audience score, though. What's wrong with the other 14% there? Or 24%?
24%. I don't know.
I do math good.
Math is best.
Like I speak English good. Yeah, the other 24% are wrong. Because I don't know how you can not enjoy Harryhausen. It is a 1950s B action-adventure movie with some cheesy dialogue like we just showcased and, bad choreography,
But it's fun.
But the effects are so cool and so well done for that time that it's just amazing to watch. Because for someone to even do that kind of stop motion today, like if you go and watch your Wallace and Gromit or your Leica studios, Aardman, Leica, all of those, you see what kind of work is put into those, and you just have to appreciate that kind of work. It's pretty amazing.
It's insane, and it's amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, so this gets a full recommendation from me. And here's a little bit about the Sinbad with the books. Is the Sinbad stories appear in Arabian Nights or 1001 Nights. I think the version that I have is my leatherbound version is Arabian Nights. And so I've read some of the Sinbad stuff. And the funny thing is this is the 7th Voyage of Sinbad. And this isn't even like I think it's like a mix between like the 3rd and 4th voyage or something like that from the books. And I'm not sure, I'm going, where were the first, why did we choose the 7th Voyage of Sinbad?
Because it sounds cool.
Yeah, because there were actually 7 voyages. So in the books, I was like, after this, I want Harryhausen to make 1 through 6, but he's dead now. And so they show up in these books, and basically what Arabian Nights is, or 1001 Nights, is a Persian prince is betrayed by his wife, and he decides that, because he's betrayed by his wife, every woman is bad. And so he's going to marry every woman in his kingdom, and he kills them the next day.
And this masculinity ruins the party again.
Yes, and this is the overarching story of
kind of the framing device.
The framing device, kind of like because it's an anthology thing. So it's the framing device of an anthology book, and so he finally, eventually, he's got a vizier who gets the women for him, and all of the women are either killed or run away, and the only person left is the vizier's daughter. I can never pronounce this. Scheherazade, I think, and she decides to marry him despite her father's protests. And in order to stay alive, she tells a cliffhanger story every single night that he wants to hear more the next day. And so she does this for 1001 nights to stay alive. So that's why it's called 1001 Nights. I don't know if they must have just continually added stuff. And I don't know who originally wrote the original stories, but Sinbad stories were a late addition to the book and apparently they didn't appear in the earliest 14th century manuscript of this. So they were originally written in the 14th century. And his first appearance was in a Turkish collection dated 1637. So he appeared a lot later. And then the magic lamp, which I mentioned earlier, it was in Aladdin stories, didn't get added into the Arabian Nights until the 18th century. So these stories just kept getting added and added. So he must have been like, oh, I'm doing all these monsters. I might as well throw in, and they're from Arabian Nights, so I'll just throw in a genie too.
I think it's definitely cool how it's just sort of this weird progressive fiction where someone. So I guess it's almost like it's more of a cultural heritage thing than a single work by a single author.
Yeah, so I don't know if there really was a single author for the original works either.
There might have been, or it might have just
been. There could have been, and people just added later.
Or it could have been sort of an oral tradition type thing.
That could have been and eventually got written down. But I have read most of the Voyages of Sinbad in the book. And he always ends up with a lot of wealth, and he's got everything he wants at the end. But he had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations on each voyage, and when you get to the next Sinbad story, he's like, I'm bored. I'm going to go sailing again. And really bad things happen. By the time you get to the 5th or 6th one, you go, why do you even get on a ship anymore? Every single time leads to disaster.
For adventure!
Every single time is some sort of disaster happens. But it's interesting reading the Arabian Nights. So apparently, obviously, there's not 1,001 stories because that would be
a lot
of stories. That would be a really thick book. But what do you have for a recommendation for a double feature with this?
Well, I guess there's really two ways you could go with this one. You could go back because one of the biggest inspiration for Ray Harryhausen's entire career was, of course, King Kong, which came out in 1933, and he saw it when he was 13. And what he also worked on, I believe worked with Willis O'Brien, the mastermind behind the King Kong effects, on kind of the semi-sequel, not quite, Mighty Joe Young from 1948. So that would so either King Kong from 1933, which is really where all of special effects wizardry comes from, or you could go in the opposite direction, which I think I might. I'm going to recommend Leica Studios and their films, which are entirely stop motion. This is sort of the modern way of stop motion, where it's a nice combination of digital effects as well as stop motion, as well as even like 3D printing with some of the parts and pieces that they need to make the facial expressions for the dolls that they use in armatures. So I'm probably going to go with Kubo and the Two Strings, and especially recommend looking up the special features for that movie to see how they did, first of all, the Kubo when he meets the giant eyeball, and Kubo when they fight the giant skeleton in that sequence, because that's like, it's actually a giant skeleton. They have these tiny dolls fighting on top of it, and the giant eyeball is like the size of a bowling ball. It's really cool stuff if you're into stop motion animation.
Yeah, I can stand behind that. Leica, I don't think has made a bad movie yet. They've got Kubo, they've got Paranorman, which is great, and Box Trolls, which isn't my favorite, but I still really enjoyed it. I think
their first movie was Coraline,
and that is the only movie by them that I have not seen yet. But I would recommend anything by Leica. So, and Kubo is a great choice. I'm going probably the route I shouldn't take because, we should branch off of it. However, I grew up watching Clash of the Titans 7 million times as a kid. And anytime I get to recommend it, I'm going to. So I'm going to turn it into a Harryhausen double feature. And it kind of works as a bookend to his career, though, because the 7th Voyage of Sinbad was one of his first movies in Dynamation, and it was the first color stop-motion movie. And then he's got a career of doing other things like Jason and the Argonauts and other movies, and I can't remember all the titles he's done. But then he eventually did, in 1981, I think was his last movie, Clash of the Titans. And you see that, he just got better and better with the stop-motion. And you've got Medusa in there, you've got the Kraken, you've got Laurence Olivier as Zeus. You've got Maggie Smith is in there, and who else? The cast was kind of Laurence Olivier, Maggie Smith, Ursula Andress, who was the first Bond girl.
Huh?
I think it was Ursula Andress was the first Bond girl in Dr. No. Burgess Meredith. So you got
nice.
You got Mickey, and he's in Perseus's corner. So he's kind of playing the Mickey to
he's in the same costume, I assume, and then afterwards
he's got the stocking cap on.
No,
go get him,
stocking
Perseus.
cap. He's dressed as the Penguin when he was in the 1966 Batman series. Wah, wah, wah.
The top hat and the long cigarette. But so he's great, and he's like, "Go get him, Perseus."
Eat thunder and crap lightning.
And the other thing I was going to mention is, as many times as I've seen that movie, until I looked it up this time, I never knew who the director was, which goes back to the point of a Harryhausen movie is a Harryhausen movie. The director is Desmond Davis, so I will give him his due, but I've always grown up going, it's Ray Harryhausen's Clash of the Titans. It's Ray Harryhausen's 7th Voyage of Sinbad. It's Ray Harryhausen's Jason and the Argonauts. Like,
I agree. He's such a creative force. It almost overpowers everything else.
Yeah. And then I've also got to recommend Clash of the Titans because it's got the best mechanical animal sidekick you'll ever see in a movie, Bubo the Owl. And are you familiar with Clash of the Titans?
I've never actually seen it.
Okay, so you need to remedy that,
Okay,
especially if you're a fan of Harryhausen.
If you watch Coraline, I'll watch Clash of the Titans.
I will definitely watch Coraline. And so that's my recommendation because it's Clash of the Titans. And unfortunately, they don't say release the Kraken. You don't have Liam Neeson, but that's the only thing I would really recommend about the new Clash of the Titans is just hearing Liam Neeson say, release the Kraken.
Yeah, I suppose.
Actually, I've never even seen the new remake.
Neither did I.
Because I refused to. It didn't need to be made. So those are our double features. And one other thing that I would add on top of that is there is a Ray Harryhausen documentary that's pretty good on Amazon Prime. So that's available on your streaming service. And speaking of streaming services, we are to that portion of the show where we hit the wheel. And did we pick a category last time?
I think we did. We just picked adventure.
What about a thriller?
Sure.
We're going to go thriller.
Because this is thriller night.
It's a thriller. 90% or better, and... Okay, we have got The Survivalist.
I have not heard of this film.
On Netflix. In a time of starvation, a survivalist lives off a small plot of land hidden deep in a forest. When two women seeking food and shelter discover his farm, he finds existence threatened. It's a man threatened by women.
Oh, joy. Who's in it?
Mia Goth and Martin McCann.
When did this film come out?
2015.
And it has... What's the percent on Rotten Tomatoes?
98%.
How many reviews?
That, it doesn't actually say on here. You have to go to RottenTomatoes.com, I believe.
We should probably figure that out.
Yeah,
it's like 1.
Rotten... You tell all about Rotten Tomatoes while I get to Rotten Tomatoes.
I'll write your tomatoes.
No. RottenTomatoes.com. What did I say this was? Survivalist?
Yes, The Survivalist.
From 2015.
It feels like 1915.
Oh, see, Rotten Tomatoes has it listed as 2017.
Ooh.
Must have been on the shelf for a while.
Maybe.
It's got 40 fresh and 1 rotten.
Okay, that is much more than I was expecting.
Yeah. Audience score is 66% though, so this could be one of those.
Yeah, it could be one of those. I mean,
this could go either way here. But that is on Netflix, so until next time.
I'm still Noah Saturn.
And I'm Stop Motion.
Stop Motion Kyle.
Oh, and you can follow us
on the tweeters.
On the Twitter.
And mine is Noah_Saturn.
And I am at AwesomeKM. And we have just also started a Instagram page at We Don't Know What to Watch. So
check us out there on our Instagram. We'll actually try and do stuff with it. We're trying to be more active on social media. You'll find me occasionally live tweeting stuff. Like I was live tweeting when I was watching like Deadly Class or something I just happened to be watching.
I don't even know what that show is.
I don't know if I like it.
Oh, okay.
But I guess I'll keep live tweeting it.
Oh, there you go.
Because it's still going on to my DVR.
I'll keep on watching it. Well, until next time, don't trust magicians from islands called Colossa.
And stop motion is really hard.